The Dashavatar Stotram, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please. Pralaya payobdi jale dritavannasi vedam vihitava hitra charitramakeram keshavadrita mina sharira jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Shitirihad Vipulatare Tishtati Tava Prishte Dharani Dharana Kina Chaka Garishte Keshavadrita Kurma Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vasati Dashana Shikare Dharani Tavalagna Shashanika Lanka Kaleva Nimagna Keshavadrita Shukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Nakamad Puta Sringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Chalayasi Vikramane Balamad Bhutavamana Padanaka Nirjanita Janapavana Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Kshatriya Rudhira Maye Jagadapagata Papam Snapayasi Payasi Shamita Bhavatapam Keshavadrita Brigupati Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vitarasi Dikshurane Dikpati Kamaniyam Dashamukha Mauli Balim Ramaniyam Keshavadrita Rama Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vahasiva Pushi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam Keshavadrita Haladara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Nindasi Yagya Vidhe Rahaha Shuti Jatam Sadaya Ridaya Darshita Pashugatam Keshavadrita Buddha Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Mletsha Nivaha Nidhane Kalayasi Karavalam, Duma Ketumiva Kimapi Karalam, Keshavadrita Kulki Sharira, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Keep going. Shri Jaya Deva Kaveri Damudita Mudaram, Shinu Sukadam Shubhadam Pavasaram, Keshavadrita Dashvidharupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Veja Mudarate Jagandi Vahate, Bugola Mudbibrate, Daityam Darayate Balim Chalayate, Shatrashayam Kurvate, Paulastyam Jayate Halam Kalayate, Karunyamatanvate, Lechan Murchayate Dashakriti Krite, Krishnaya Tubhyam Namah. Guru Vashtakam, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sangsara Davana Ladlita Loka, Tranaya Karunya Ganaganatvam, Praptasya Kalyanugunarnavasya, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam, Mahaprabho Kirtana Nritya Gita, Varitramadyan Manasora Sena, Romancha Kampashtaranga Bhajo, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanada, Sringara Mandira Marjanadao, Yuktasya Bhaktamscha Ninunchatopi, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Turvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada, Swadanna Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangan, Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajatak Sadaiva, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Shri Radhika Madhavayora Para, Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namnam, Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasya, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai, Yayali Bhir Yukti Rapekshaniya, Tatrati Dakshadati Pallavasya, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Sakshadari Tvenastamasta Shastrer, Ruktastata Bhavyata Eva Sadbihi, Kintu Praborya Priya Eva Tasya, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi, Dhyayam Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam, Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Srimad Guru Ashtakam Etaruchar, where's 9? Srimad Guru Ashtakam Etaruchar, Brahme Mahurte Patita Priyatnat, Yastena Vrindavana Nata Sakshad Sevaiva Labhya Janashonta Eva. So we chanted the Sri Brahma Samhita and the Dashavatar Stotram and the Guruvashtakam, and I personally feel better after that. In this world, when we're mixed up with material energy, the signs of Krishna consciousness has to be experienced practically every day, in that it helps us to contact our spiritual side in a profound way. At least for a few seconds, one has to see that or feel it every day. And this is the advantage of the process of Krishna consciousness, that we have access to transcendental sound vibration and an authorized process through which we can experience for ourselves the nature of pure consciousness. And nothing is as encouraging as progress or personal direct experience. So the medicine particularly is the hearing and chanting. And that should go on every day. And if one has a regular practice of the hearing and chanting, without any interruption, then one can very quickly advance as much as one likes. Recently, a godbrother of mine was talking about his dedication to japa. At least I called him to ask him to inspire me more for japa. And so he was humbly giving suggestions. And one of his suggestions was that every day you enter into japa heaven. And he described his japa heaven as the time that he turns off everything. Everything else that could touch him from the outside world or the inside world, he turns off and gives himself full time and permission to chant japa and just be with the holy name. And miraculously, just that one activity or that one discipline of turning everything off before one starts the japa sets an intention, because you're actively doing something. And it sets the stage for actually thinking of Krishna in his name. And all the Shastras and the great teachers of devotional service say that particularly if one spends time chanting the holy name, one will become inspired spiritually, get good intelligence, feel detachment from the world and aloofness, which is very necessary to be blissful. Otherwise, it's easy to get bound up by the cares and anxieties of the material world. Isn't it? Correct. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Uno más. Shri Shri Navadvipa Para Pradipa Sandipyamana Satato Bhuvya Chetastamo Hanti Hiyasya Yatnat Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Prachodita Shri Vyasadya Kosham Kushalam Kripalu Samblecha Vagdesha Chayeda Dadyas Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Achadyate Yat Paratarka Drishya Govinda Murtyujvala Bhaskarena Advaita Katyota Kulam Jagatyam Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Yasyaiva Yadnena Pura Raja Keshava Keli Hamsa Srutraratna Vihiti Haloke Tam Kirtayama Prabhu Yasyaiva Yatnina. Wait a minute, go back. Yasyaiva Yatnina Pura Raja. What's missing? Something. Okay, go to the next one, but Shamalangi's on the case. Shri Radhika Krishna Padara Vinde Sahasra Hritsu Shatamandaryeshu Aropayadyo Madhure Prativyam Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Kaushaulyadhar Yasya Sahasra Shastra Divarshai Pratitanyatehi Chanda Kalir Moha Chamur Hatena Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Nana Lasad Goda Sudha Prakasha Palashitor Stapita Eva Yena Krishnanu Chinta Janasanga Vrikshas Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Yo Nityada Jivati Daivikeshu Nijasu Shikshasu Tu Sanugami Kripambudir Nanda Shuta Shritatma Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadya Sri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Vidudhapa Siddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Pomestvam Nirdesha Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Tvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tap Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambo Jao Radha Madana Mohana Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastao Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deval Prishtali Bi Sevya Manusmarami Shrimandra Sarasadampi Vangshi Vatatatastitaha Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatha Striyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindayai Tulsi Devyai Priyayai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Nishinga Jai Nishinga Jai Jai Narasingha Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Matsamo Nasti Papa Ma Naparadi Chakashana Parihare Pilajja Me Kimbruve Purushottama Yuvatinam Yata Yuni Yunam Cha Yuvatau Yata Mano Biramate Tadvan Mano Me Ramatam Tvai Umaskalita Padanam Pumireva Valambanam Tvai Jata Parananam Tameva Sharanam Prabho Govinda Balabe Radhe Prartaye Tvam Maham Sada Twadiyam iti janatu Govindo mam Tvaya Saha Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahani Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mayam Pradiyatam Vande Nanda Vrajastrinam Padurenam Abhikshnashaha Yasam Hari Kato Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam Namashreshtam Manamapi Shachiputra Matra Sarupam Sri Rupam Tasya Gajam Aruparim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhava Sham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi Adadhana Stridam Dante Idam Jache Puna Punaha Shrimad Rupa Padamboja Rajoham Syam Bhave Bhave Hantaya Madhura Bala Haridasavaryo Yadrama Krishna Charana Sparasha Pramodaha Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayo Tayo Taniya Suyavasa Kandana Kandamulai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the material world, people, they go to a bar to drown their sorrows in alcohol. But here we come and drown ourselves in shlokas. Today's class is dedicated to mothers, all the mothers of the world. This is Mother's Day weekend. And first is that we can see everywhere in the world Krishna. As Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 10, you can see me in my opulences in this world. For instance, when you see the shark, you may think of Krishna. There's something that's so startling about a shark. The people make movies about sharks, many movies about sharks. People turn their heads and sort of there's a shock and awe when it comes to seeing a shark. And Krishna names many different aspects of the material world that are naturally opulent. In fact, everywhere we look, we see the opulence of this world. And Krishna says That's my reflection here in this world. And it's coming as a manifestation of one of the expansions of my expansions and my expansions manifest in this world. And as we read also in the Mangalacharana prayers today, how Rupa Goswami compares the emotions we find in this world to those spiritual emotions that are naturally there within the heart. How do we know? Well, Shastra says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. It's naturally there within the heart, the potency to love God. That's the natural inclination of living entity. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte. When one purifies the heart, Karya Udoy, it comes out naturally, becomes to manifest. And in Rupa Goswami gives the example, Yuvatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvatau yata, mano biramate tadvan manamera matam tvai. Just see, he says, how natural it is for a young boy to be attracted to a young girl and young girl to be attracted to a young boy. You can't keep them away. They go for each other just like magnets. So he said, in the same way, let my attraction be drawn unto you, Krishna. The attractions here in this material world are a reflection, as we hear in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, of the actual spiritual world. So it's not unreasonable. It's reasonable when one sees the reflection to be attracted to it. But what's even more reasonable is to connect to the reality that's the source of that reflection. And that brings full satisfaction and happiness. One of the most important aspects of this world that we all depend on, and where we can see the natural inclination of spontaneous love, is within the mother. The quality of love of a mother, Prabhupada says, most resembles spontaneous love in this world. From seeing mothers, observing how they give their selfless attention from pillar to post. Mothers never give up on their children. They are always attached to them, even if they end up being mass murderers. They're like, oh, my son, and they'll be attached to them to the very last moment, no matter what their faults may be. In fact, the child may be born blind, and the mother calls him Padmalochan, a lotus-eyed one, out of affection. And in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, talking to Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur, says, you're like my little children, and whatever you say or do, I take as something wonderful. And he gives the example of a mother. Sometimes the child will pass stool and gets on the mother, but the mother takes it as some kind of fragrant chatusana, a combination of camphor and sandalwood, and there's several other very aromatic substances that go into this chatusana. But the mother takes it like that because she has this natural love and appreciation for the child. So our ideal for love for Krishna is manifested in this motherly love in the material world, pure love for Krishna. What is it? Simple and spontaneous love. That's our ideal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that this is the highest love. When he talked about the embodiment of the highest love, he gave Ramya Kachirupasana Rajavidu Vargena Vakalpita. He said, the gopis, they're all mothers. They have this motherly affection for Krishna, and also as his consorts, they have natural affection, but it's simple. It's not complicated. We heard the flute, we ran out the door. There was no contemplation. There was no calling somebody next door and said, are you going? Are you going to go to the rasa dance tonight? It's just simple and spontaneous. And we see that in this world, in the love of a mother for the child. The mother will come running. The mother will be naturally attentive to the child in all circumstances throughout the day and the night. And this is the kind of devotion that devotees develop under the care of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this attentive devotion day and night, 24 hours a day, thinking of how to serve Krishna. And it's simple. It's not a matter of intellectual prowess. It's a matter of natural love that comes from the heart. We have examples in the Shastra of the kind of exchanges Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with his devotees, and which were couched in this beautiful motherly love. One of the most celebrated sections of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is about the Raghavera Jali. Sri Raghava Pandit used to bring all kinds of food with him to give to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. His sister was named Damayanti. And she would cook hundreds, thousands of preparations with the greatest care and love, motherly love, for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they would be packed, one package within another package, and then they were put in these large bags. And Makaradwaj Kar was the secretary for these bags. You could imagine the production, that the cooking is going on in the kitchen, and this is a place where we think about mothers oftentimes. People, they may be away at war, and all they can think of, I just want to go home and have some of my mother's cooking. When you're traveling, people give you things to eat, and it's like, what's in it? I don't know if I can eat that. But when you go home, your mother gives you, they're just like, you just eat it. Because this is simple, natural, spontaneous, that it comes from love, and you take it out of love. And these Raghavera Jali were cooked by Damayanti and packed by Sri Raghava Pandit and carried every year with great care and attention, so much so that they had a secretary who would look over these bags, and each one of the sweets was registered. And they would give to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he would take them with the greatest relish all year long. And sometimes when the devotees hear about this cooking that went on by Damayanti and Sri Raghava Pandit, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relished those delicacies that they cooked for him, so the devotees' tears come down from their eyes. This is spontaneous, natural, simple love. And what was it? So they cooked for him. I cooked. This cooking in the kitchen, therefore, is one of the prized aspects of devotional service, that one goes in and cooks with one's heart. I'm cooking for Krishna, so he'll eat something. In Govardhan, I've seen in some families who've lived there all their lives, they have a very spontaneous relationship with their deities. And it's not that they come out and do all kinds of mudras and mantras. No, they come out, they cook some sweet, they put it in front of Giriraj, and now you eat. You eat now, because you'll starve otherwise. And Prabhupada mentions this in his Chaitanya Charitamrita purports, that this is the mood of the devotee, motherly love, that Krishna, I have to feed him, he'll go hungry, he'll starve. You come over now and eat. You come home. Mother Yashoda used to go out and call Krishna home. And then he'd say, yeah, coming. And then he'd stay out and play. And there was a lot of social pressure for him, because his friends would say, you're your mama's boy, you're going to go home now? We're right in the middle of the play. And then she'd come back really mad, and she'd say, what do you think, you're a street boy? You come down. Nanda's waiting for his lunch till you get home. Now you come home now. And this kind of spontaneous love for Krishna and the scolding of Mother Yashoda, says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I've come to teach this kind of love. That this is higher than this sasa, shirsha, purusahasa, all the Brahmins offering all these prayers and everything is very nice. But if my consort scolds me, if my mother chastises me, then this is even more relishable to me. This simple, spontaneous love that comes from the love of a mother. It's mentioned Chaitanya Charitamrita about the Raghavera Jali. He brought so many presentations that no one could know them perfectly. Indeed, it was a fact that the Supreme Mother Radharani personally cooked in the house of Raghava Pandit. So this is the heart of any house, it's the heart of any temple, it's the heart of Vrindavan, this cooking for Krishna which is going on. Radharani does it every day. And this is done in this kind of motherly affection. Another things about mothers I've noticed is that they notice the little things that their children do, and they appreciate them. It can be the smallest little thing. When I was in kindergarten, there was at Burton School, where I went to school, every year they had the Burton Fair. And at that they would have these races, where there were all kinds of races. There was one for running, there's a 50-yard dash, and then there was skipping, and the kindergartens, they'd have a skipping race. And I started the race and I fell down and got back up and I finished 7th and I got a ribbon, 7th place in skipping. And I was proud, I got something, but my mother was even more proud. She was showing everybody, look, he got 7th place in skipping, and years later I'm thinking, how embarrassing, you lost, buddy, anybody else is saying, you really blew it, kid, and my mother's like, he won something, look at that. And Krishna is similar. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Neha bikramanashosti pratyavayona vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobaya. If you do any little thing for me, I just appreciate it. This is the motherly side of Krishna. Just like a mother will see anything. The first note I left my mother was, I just learned to write, and I wanted to go to my friend's house named Lance Bartle, and I left her a 3-word note, I at Lance. And I left it for her. And you know what? When my mother passed away, I found that note in her things. She kept it since I was in 3rd or 2nd grade, that note. She was like, he wrote something. He put I at Lance. And you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was appreciating the residents of Kuliyagram, he was saying, because this Sri Krishna Vijay was written here by one devotee, and it had in it, Shri Nandanandana Krishna Mor Pranath, an appreciation that Krishna is my life and soul. He said, everybody in this city is dear to me. One little thing, one little statement, one little book, and he held it dear. This is motherly affection. This is the mood of the mother, to appreciate just the smallest little thing. And Krishna's like that. He has this appreciation for the small things that we do. So another thing is that mothers, they live at the level of their children just to care for them. I mean, obviously mothers are adults. They've grown up, they have their own life, they have their own friends, they have their own interests. But you'll see them on the ground, drawing little figures, going off to, yes, I'll play cooking with you, and I'll play dolls with you. They bring themselves down to the level of their kids just to nurture them. Even though they could just say, look, I'm busy, I got my own life, I don't need you in my life. But they don't have that. They have this tendency to come down to the level of the child. So similarly, we could see how Prabhupada, when he came to the West, and this is a mood, a motherly mood that we must have in our outreach of Krishna consciousness. And we can't think, just like these guys are so out of it. How can I don't even want to talk to him. But Prabhupada came, and he could have said that because he had come from Vrindavan. Imagine the way in which Vrindavan was at that time. It was completely quiet. The Jamuna was crystal clear. In the morning times, all you could hear was the chanting coming from the temples. There were no motorbikes. There were no motor rickshaws. There were no cars. There were just sadhus in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was there for a decade, just hearing and chanting and writing. And then he had to come to New York City, San Francisco, and the hippie movement's going on. And everyone's got their idea about who God is, and they're not afraid to tell Srila Prabhupada about who God really is, and so forth. And also, those even who are sincere come and they don't know how to clean up after themselves. They don't know anything. They're like little babies who don't know anything. They can't care for themselves. But Prabhupada came to their level. And he also taught on their level too, so they could understand it. This is the love of a mother, and this is what's necessary for reaching out to others. Yes, you may have your own standard of Krishna consciousness, but in order to be motherly, in order to spread Krishna consciousness in this mood, one has to assume this mood of a mother and come down to the level. You have to get on your hands and knees when the kids are playing and say, okay, let's play. What's the little truck? You got a truck? You know, they don't really care about the truck, but they, they care about their daughter or son and the kids, and they'll play with them for hours because they want to love them. So this is the love that we have to show, this motherly love when we reach out to other people. So, another few qualities of motherly love: protective. Another is selfless, unconditional service. So, protective, selfless, unconditional service. And this is epitomized in the mother. I'm simply amazed when I see mothers and how they bring a child to term, they carry the child in the womb, so much inconvenience, and then what to speak of them when the child is born. Then it's a 24-hour engagement and taking care and so forth. And the mother practically never complains, and then the children practically throughout their whole lives depend on the mother. The mother also doesn't get much gratitude normally. Children growing up, they take it for granted that this is what I get. I deserve this. And then oftentimes when kids get in their teens, they can suddenly just turn on their parents and just say, you know, I'm leaving. You know, you guys are squares. I practically did that when I was a kid. I said, I got to go. This is, you know, ridiculous. But the mothers never give up. They keep their loving propensity toward their child unconditionally. It doesn't matter. The child turns on them, goes another direction, doesn't give them any attention. And this is this quality of devotional love that the Bhagavatam teaches, that is unmotivated and uninterrupted. And you can see that in mothers. You just watch how they raise a child from the very beginning all the way till the very last moment when the mother leaves the world or the child leaves the world. That attachment is there, and that unconditional service to the child is there. The examples of mothers, we say Mother Earth. Now, there's 7 mothers mentioned in this Shastra. Who would like to say what some of them, who the mothers are? Yes?
The queen, the guru's wife, cow.
Just say, okay, give us 2.
The cow and the guru's wife.
Cow and Guru Patni. Yeah, so the cow, I mean, let's think about a cow also. When motherly love is selfless. So cows, they represent this selflessness. Look, grass is the most abundant thing in the world. It grows in every country of the world. And practically it's free. You know, you can't get anything for grass anywhere else. People just, you know, it's like, how are you going to pay for that? Well, how about some grass? No thanks. We don't need any grass. But cows will take it. Cows will take the least important thing in this world, grass. It just grows on the ground. Just take it for themselves also. You don't even have to come and put it in a dish. Like, they just like help themselves to the most insignificant. And that's it. Trinadapi Sunichan, it's mentioned. The most insignificant thing, what is it? Grass. Okay. That's what the cows eat. But then they give the highest thing. What is considered the highest? The milk of the cow. This is liquid religiosity. They turn things into something better. This is a motherly quality. To take that which is insignificant and turn it into something that's valuable. That can actually be nourishing. It can be nourishing. So the cow, yes. And then the wife of the guru, there's typically the gurus are grihastas because there's so much nurturing that has to go on. Actually, the guru-disciple relationship has so much to do with nurturing, taking care of the emotional needs and the encouragement for someone who's trying to make it and so forth. And it's very helpful when there's mother and father figure in that. So traditionally, there's this, we hear all the time about the Guru Patni, the wife of the guru is there. It says, even brahmacharis, they need to have that. They need to have a mom to go, if you take them away, brahmachari life doesn't mean something that is disconnected from emotion, but it means to learn how to channel that emotion back to Krishna. And when it comes through the proper channels, the motherly love, through the Guru Patni, there are many different kinds of gurus, but the Guru Patni is there, and she gives this kind of loving emotion that you just need sometimes. You don't need an intellectual answer, you just need somebody's shoulder to cry on. It's like, ah! It's like, it's okay, you're good the way you are. And this motherly kind of affection is very much needed. It's very much needed for everyone. And we have to have a motherly side of our ISKCON movement. It can't just be about intellectual pursuits. It can't just be about progress, that I've built so many things. There has to be this nurturing feeling that we have for one another. Otherwise, we really don't have much at all. In the past, we've had the mood of progress at all costs. And it's too costly. It's too costly. Radhanath Maharaj told me when he moved to the project in Chaupati, his philosophy was devotees first, nurturing first. Everything else, let it come naturally. This is a motherly kind of feeling, and everyone gravitates towards that. That feeling of that I care about the person. I want to nourish the person's spirit and make sure that they're whole. So Guru Patni is there, that mood is there. And ISKCON has to be like Guru Patni also, have that mood also. Not just thunderbolt, but also the nurturing, soft side. Of course, a mother can be very strong also. It's possible. What are some more of the gurus that are mentioned? It's nice about this Vedic culture also, that so many gurus everywhere. It's not just like, there's only one guru, but they see how to take instruction everywhere. As you said?
I want to say Mother Earth and the
Mother
nurse.
Earth. Let's take Mother Earth, for example. This example of Mother Earth is actually given many times in the Shastra. In the 11th canto, when there's a description of the 24 gurus of this Avaduta Brahmana. No one could see any gurus around. Maharaj Yadu saw this sage and talked to him and said, "Dude, you're enlightened. How did you achieve this?" "Oh, my gurus." "You're alone. Where are they?" And so he began naming the gurus. So one of the first ones that he names is the earth, Mother Earth. And this verse comes in the Bhagavatam. A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of God, and thus he should never be distracted from progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth. So this example is given of Mother Earth, how she's taken advantage of, abused in so many different ways, but she continues to give and be nurturing all the time. What is another mother?
Yeah, nurse, the one.
Nurse, yeah. I mean, everyone feels it when they're sick. Somebody could be worried about their state of condition, whatever it is, and the nurse comes in and just like, "It's okay, here, have a bowl of soup, you're going to be okay." And really, actually, medical science has shown now that so much is in the bedside manner. Just 2 days ago, I was reading the Hippocratic Oath. Any doctors in here taken the Hippocratic Oath? It's a very interesting oath to read. You can read it on Wikipedia. What is about the Hippocratic Oath, but so much of it is about how one should be nurturing to the patient. It's not all clinical. In fact, medicine shows that patients actually heal when you give them nurturing and love. We welcome all the devotees who have joined us on the internet today. Please say Hare Krishna and welcome. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming. There's so much of healing comes from the motherly love of the nurse. And those who go into the nursing profession, you can see their mood also. Sometimes patients berate them because they're in pain, or they don't want to be there, and they take the nurse for granted, but still the nurse comes in, does his or her job, just taking care of the person, of the patient, very lovingly. A nurse, who else?
The wife of the king and wife of...
wife of the king.
Yeah, and wife of Brahmana.
And a wife of a Brahmana. Yeah, so we see that there's yin and yang everywhere. The two sides have to be there. There's the king, and then there's the queen also. And you could see even in countries that still have a king and queen, how much the psyche of the country really depends on the king and the queen. I've seen it in Thailand. They have at the airport, when you drive up to the airport, they have huge banners of pictures of the king and queen together. And in England also, it's a big deal. They say, oh, they don't count anymore, it's all parliamentary and everything. But it does. I mean, it dominates the news. What are the king and queen doing? I was there when Princess Di and, what was his name? Diana and Charles got married. We were there at the distributing books. Actually, there was a side story to that. Just a side story. The distributing books, I had a revelation there. There was a devotee couple that decided that they were going to camp out be in front of Buckingham Palace. 2 days, 3 days, maybe they had to sleep outside to wait for the big day when all the press was there and everything. And they had made a big sign that said, the Hare Krishnas congratulate Di and Charles, or something like that. Big sign. And we were all out distributing books for several days, every day, big crowds coming into town. And everyone was berating these devotees. Oh, they're in Maya. They're just camping out there on the lawn, holding their place, because it was a coveted place there that they had. They're wasting their time and all this stuff. And in the day that Princess Di and Charles came out of the palace, they unfurled their sign that said, Hare Krishna, congratulations, like that. And then Time magazine came out. And all you see is Hare Krishna on the front page. And I thought, wow, there are many ways to actually broadcast the holy name. Never count anybody out and their ideas. Never, someone has a special idea, they're inspired, encourage them. Don't think there's only one way to do this. Did we cover all the mothers? We said earth, we said the cow, we said the queen, we said the nurse, we said the Guru Patni, the real mother, the biological mother, and the wife of the Brahmana. That's it? Complete. Okay. And what? Yes. Whose wife?
He's saying brother's wife, but that is not like...
Elder brother's wife? Yeah, we find in the families, when mothers, there's a way in which, in some cultures in India, when the mother would have a child very young, by the time that the child was getting older, she'd have a great grandmother in the house, practically. The children of the children of the children. And there's this mood of motherly love that pervades the household, very healthy for the children. And that's the grandparents, Prabhupada said, are even more nurturing and loving than the parents themselves. And I've seen for myself now that some god brothers and god sisters are growing up and they're becoming grandparents. And then you don't hear from them again for the next 5 years. And it's like, where are you? Like, I got grandkids, woohoo! And they just become so loving towards them. I mean, the grandkids get to absorb so much love from their Krishna conscious grandparents. Cow's milk is something people take it for granted for. Mother's milk, Okay, so I have more to go here. We'll take a few reflections so far, just to consolidate. Yes, Mukharavind and Shraddha.
Thank you, Maharaj, for wonderful lecture. I remember in our yatra we are very fortunate to have nurse, and then when you told that not just profession but always they are in that mood, so I could relate like how Bhaktavatsal Prabhu when he was there, how he was so caring for everyone, like it was in his DNA to take care of others as a nurse. So I was just and also I remembering one of my godbrother who is a brahmachari. So I see that whenever he posts, the first liking will do by his mother, and she will bless him so much that okay, my son. So it was so seeing that always he encourages his brahmachari son.
And you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he deferred to his mother. I mean, what's his name? We say Jai Sachinandana. He's mama's boy. He's the mother of Sachi. Who is he? Mother of Sachi. And that's warranted. He took sannyas and he said, what did I do? This was crazy. He said, all right, my mother, I'll give it all up for you. You just tell me what to do, I'll do anything. And she said, well, I don't, you can't ruin your reputation. But if you stay in Jagannath Puri, there's a corridor between the two places, you'll be close. And Mahaprabhu took it as, this is my order from my mother, I'll take it as the topmost order, from his mother. And always he was sending people back to Navadvip to make sure that his mother got news of him and so forth. What else? Reflections. Shraddha was next.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for picking this topic today. Actually, I was just telling Mukharvind in the morning that it is my mother's birthday today.
Haribol! Everyone make sure to give your moms a call this weekend.
I can't call her. But I'm so blessed, and the second point that I wanted to bring up was that in the Silicon Valley, we are so blessed to have Nirakala Mataji as a mother. All the characteristics that you described today, they definitely apply to her. And so I just wanted to give a big Haribol to Nirakala Mataji.
Which reminds me, Vinny, I have a loaf of bread for you from Nirkula.
Hari Haribol.
You can pass this back to him. Hare Krishna.
And I was also going to talk about Bhaktavatsal Prabhu, but Mukharvind already covered that about. You had also mentioned that how when we grow up, we stop respecting our parents, and I also see that in a person's life, as some of the kids, as they grow older, for them, if the parents have got some money, then they'll be always going back to their mothers, asking them for money and like that. And then you had also mentioned Earth is one of the mothers, and then I think last week you had mentioned about how the earthquakes happen because of all the things that we do to the earth. So there are so many parallels on Mother Earth versus what people do to the biological mother.
Thank you. Shamalangi?
I just wanted to call out Hansapriya Mataji's name also as a mother, because we are mothers with kids, but she's like my mother also. Her ability to teach, I see in her the ability to teach, whether it be cooking or how to function in the temple or this deity service. So I really, really thank her and appreciate her for this.
Yeah, mothers look
and also
after
the cook.
things.
Yeah.
And when you see Hansapriya come in, you go, something's being taken care of. Something's being taken care of in a nice way. Go ahead, Rajesh, and then Harivamsha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, one thing I've realized, mother love is, unconditional, but it's also equal to everyone. Even if they have many kids, they might express it differently, but in core of their heart, she's having the same love for all. And that's very unique, because we could get materially motivated, or sometimes you start liking someone more because of his behavior, whatever. But actually it is always the same. So that's something tells about unconditional nature. It reflects in their, love.
Nice point. Very nice. Harivamsha? And then Navina? And then back to Shraddha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for wonderful class. And the points which you mentioned that you don't need all the time intellectual answers. Sometimes a simple nourishment is very profound. And how you mentioned that even brahmachari's renounced order, there is a need for that nourishment. And also how ISKCON should have that motherly face. And I would like to connect this because I was asking this question to some of my senior god brothers, and they mentioned that once Purnachandra Maharaj actually came to an ashram and he gave a class which had a topic, need of affection in the renounced order. And in the class he mentioned that actually there is a motherly quality called care which everyone, including brahmacharis, should try to cultivate. And that care is very profound. It doesn't matter that it should be only for the mothers, but it's the quality you should all have, and that is. And he mentioned the same point that projects for the mantra earlier in ISKCON, and it was too costly. So I like this point that you stressed again. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up again. It is one of those areas that it's a principle, and when we attend to that principle, we feel satisfied, and we also have a sound community. It's important to find the essence of what actually nourishes a community, and it's everyone together having this mood of caring and taking care of one another. And I was talking I received a letter from a brahmachari recently, and he was talking about how much he felt dependent on the loving exchanges that he has with the various devotees. And when some of them go traveling and he doesn't have that's the time then the mind starts to think, maybe I'll go, try something else. And it's the topmost kind of renunciation to replace that need for affection with spiritual association and affection. And when that's there in an abundance, then devotees feel naturally renounced towards the material world and fully free to engage in spiritual activities. There's no such thing as cold, hard renunciation in Krishna consciousness, yukta vairagya. It means connecting everything to Krishna. And these emotions are readily or especially important to connect in order to feel whole, to be a whole person. Navina Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, we can see that sometimes you mention progress at all costs is too costly, that the masculine side, the masculine principle is very productive, but sometimes it's also wasteful.
What is?
It can be wasteful.
What can be?
Haste makes waste.
Haste makes waste.
Yeah, so there's a lot of productivity, but then sometimes because there is not that nurturing, motherly element, which means to invest, basically. The mother invests in the children, she invests in the family, she just puts it out there because she knows something will grow. That's like the earth. Nothing goes waste. Everything is continuously being recycled and reused. Everything grows from it. So one time in Mayapur, I had a manager for the academy for a couple of years, just because the circumstances ended up being just one person. Otherwise, I always had couples. But after a couple of years, I just came back to Mayapur and I looked at the place, and even though the job got done, but I felt like I'm not feeling the love here, We need a mother back in this place here. So I moved the former family back that had worked for me for several years, and now they're back and things are different, All of a sudden, flowers start to appear and new curtains and new bed sheets and all these things that a man would just say, new bed sheets? Why? Why? I mean, I got 2 pairs of socks and a pair of pants. I mean, why new clothes, right? So, and you just feel like, yeah, this feels right. Like people feel, okay, the place is back on the map. So it's a very important principle. And I feel also in my relationship with my spiritual master that very often, yeah, we hear the katha and it's very enlivening and it's very enthusing. But if we look at the moments of crisis or the moments of truth when we were truly feeling intense connection because of intense need, then that nurturing and motherly element, even in the sadhus, is the prevalent factor which is actually attracting us. Not so much the cutting edge, the blazing qualities, more the nourishing and caring quality, which is also there in sadhus and in men, if they choose to cultivate that nature, as you pointed out, that's very much needed. And I see it a lot in our sampradaya. You mentioned Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada and our spiritual teachers, that it's there. Thank you.
Back to Prabhupada's treatment of the devotees around him was very motherly. And I noticed recently when I was compiling some of Prabhupada's letters of encouragement, I was thinking, they're not hard to find because practically one after another, they're all words of encouragement. You can do this, and he sees something in them that they don't see in themselves, and I'm connecting that to what you were saying about those, few words of nourishment, of nurturing, encouragement. It goes a long way. A chastisement can also be administered very carefully at particular intervals. But I found the preponderance of Prabhupada's teachings and instructions to his disciples very much nurturing, motherly. If you look at it, you can see that over and over again. You can do this, don't worry, just try your best, and so forth. Thank you, Navina, very nice. Go ahead. Yes.
This is Sri Jahnavi Devidasi Mataji from Denver in Colorado. Thank you for a lovely class. In spiritual life, mothering seems to be a reciprocal relationship. We are taken care of by ISKCON, Guru and Krishna, which teaches us to care for conditioned souls. Nice.
When that's there, then there's a tendency to extend that to others as well. The environment that we live in is what we pass on to others as well. And Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Instruction, dadati pratigunati, that there's an exchange of loving emotions and gifts and prasadam and so forth, and that's also how we expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Nice point, Jahnavi.
And this is Sudeep Sabnis Prabhu.
Jai.
Sudeep Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. What a nice way to understand Krishna's love for us, by just understanding a mother's love towards her child. Though a child turns away from his mother in his life, the mother is patiently and lovingly waiting for him. Krishna too is waiting for us for millions of lifetimes, patiently and lovingly, for us to come back to him.
Very nice.
There's one more.
Keeps the room ready for the child. Similarly, one of my godbrothers was in a dark space once. He was doing a lot of service, but he's feeling overwhelmed. And he came to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, Krishna is building you a house in Goloka. I have seen it. Now go back to do your I was just thinking how, Krishna is ready for you at any time. It's not like, you can go home. A home means that motherly care is there. Krishna's like that. Another one?
From Bhakta Raphael. He says, Hare Krishna, please accept my sincere obeisances and dandavats. The blessings of Lord Krishna be with you, my dear Gurudev. Love is a sentiment that is natural and pure from the soul. It is not born in the body. The mind controls its expansion and where it is to be used. If we consciously use it towards towards to the devotion for Krishna, our life will change without a doubt to an eternal happiness and blissful existence. Hari Hari.
Nice way to kind of unpack what we talked in the beginning, yuvatinam yatani yoni, that Rupa Goswami says the natural attraction we have in this world, when it's redirected to Krishna, becomes the most valuable thing. Thank you, Bhakti Raphael.
I was also thinking about one of the pastimes of Krishna that you always read with a lot of relish is when she's packing lunch for Krishna, and she's already fed him breakfast in the morning, and she's still not satisfied, and she stops Krishna.
Mentioned in the Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita that there's a pastime, ritual that takes place every day when Krishna goes off to the forest, and he goes off every day with his friends. And Mother Yashoda is so doting over Krishna in every aspect of his home life. In fact, it's mentioned when he first takes Swarup home. Swarup is Gopakumar's spiritual name. When he gets back to the spiritual world, Krishna addresses him as Swarup, because that's his eternal name there. And then he takes him by the hand back to home, back to his house. And there is a description of how lovingly Yashoda is taking care of Krishna, attentive to every aspect. And at one point, some of the gopis had brought a particular sweet preparation, and Yashoda was feeding it to Krishna, and Krishna, as a joke, made a sour face, like something was wrong with it, like was bitter or sour or something like that. And then she became very perturbed that there was something wrong with it, and Krishna was sort of smiling out of the side of his mouth that he had tricked the gopis like that. And so much attention and care is given to Krishna. We can see that in the deity worship. When you read the Archana Padati, you find that all day long a pujari is engaged from morning till night in tending to the sensual needs of the deities, waking them up with all kinds of flowers and scented water, giving them a bath, putting the most opulent clothes on them, and then worshiping them throughout the day, feeding them. If you actually do full deity worship for Radha Krishna, you'll be engaged from morning till night. And this is the mood in Krishna's house. Everyone's attending to all his needs in a motherly way. And when he leaves for the day, it's very difficult for the devotees there, all the mothers, to be separated from him just for the day, for a few hours that he goes out into the forest. So Mother Yashoda follows after him for a long distance as he's trying to go away. Some of us may have experienced this when you go away from your house and your mother keeps following after you, calling after you. Did you bring that? I got it, Ma. So Mother Yashoda calls Krishna back at least 7 times and keeps asking him, And then even, he just took breakfast, but she makes him eat some of the lunch right there, just to, make sure he's got enough. So when he's going off into the forest. This is definitely the mood of motherly love in Vrindavan.
I was just observing that it's not just cooking, it's also about the serving part of it, like how Yashoda Mataji really wants to cook. And in that regard, one day I watched Hansapriya Mataji make the Rajbhoga Thal, and I actually learned from her, because when she puts the stuff in the katoris, it's never like filled to the brim. She'll always have a mound, like a little mountain on top of it, like rice. She's like, no, it won't be sufficient for Krishna. No, it won't be sufficient for Krishna. She keeps on, like that. So I learned that from her. Like, otherwise I was never bothered.
To fill it up.
To fill it up really
I had that
nicely,
experience once. My godbrother's house is very much into deity worship. It's all householders around that. And he's sort of sometimes taken as a kind of a gruff personality too. And I was helping him in the kitchen get ready for the morning offering, which is a big thing. It's like being in a temple practically in his house. And he's like, okay, fill this up. And he had these silver trays and platters, and I was putting in, and there was boga, and I put it up to a certain level, and he looks over and he goes, what are you doing? I said, fill it up. He goes, never shortchange the Lord. It's like, all right, that's a mantra, never shortchange the Lord. Who else? There were a couple more. Manjula Kanta.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, it's very nice to hear this topic today because, we had a discussion at home about, we have it about every special occasion, that, it's become very commercialized. And then there's this concept that if you love your mom, it's better to express it every day. Why one day? And then you forget about her, that's done. Whereas for me, I thought it's an excuse to find an opportunity to thank her. Otherwise, we never will. We never get an opportunity. When we want to express our gratitude to someone for services that we can never actually repay or express enough gratitude for, what is the best way to express such a gratitude? Is it just attention? Because giving in kind is very different. What loving people actually want is something deeper. It's not something you can actually manifest and hand over. What is the best way to express affection when...
Well, how do you feel about it? What is the best thing for you when somebody gives you something or expresses their gratitude?
If there's a thought in the action, if someone's thought about you,
yeah,
and whatever they give is good.
I liked what you said about attention. If there's some real attention given from the heart, a lot of times, if you go out of your way to do something that's thoughtful and caring, then it goes a long way, even if it's a small thing. Those small things make a big difference if they're done with attention to details. People notice that.
I also wanted to share that over the period of the past 2-3 weeks, I've been thinking about the fact that mothering is not an identity. It's not like a female or masculine thing. It's just a nature in people. And I was looking at Sunday school and their youth programs and how we've had more men get involved with raising the kids nowadays with ISV. We have more male teachers. We have them come in and take care. And I was seeing how much their influence is on the children and how much they start worrying about the kids and what they're doing. And you'd think that brahmacharis or men would be practical, but no, kids have a very strong influence on you when you spend a lot of time with them. And you can see the nurturing just come naturally. And I thought it's just it's something of the heart. It's something from the soul. It has nothing to do with the gender or the way we're raised.
We saw it in the yatra in Puri, how Madhavananda had extended himself to Avantika and Gitapriya, and there was that kind of, affection that he was giving them, and how powerful it was for the whole yatra. It really spreads. Nice points.
So Maharaj, I'm hoping that we will hear the same on the other side for Father's Day.
For Father's Day, okay. Yes, Sundarananda Prabhu.
Just one point, what occurred to me was, we also approach the Lord through the Supremost Mother, Srimati Radharani, or Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan. So we don't approach the Lord directly, but through the devotees and who actually are empowered with that motherly nature and the nourishment and through the Supremost Mother.
Yeah, Prabhupada said that you can't go to Krishna directly. So you go through his feminine, compassionate consort. And if she recommends you, then you're in. And you can think of also in a family too, sometimes the kids like, where'd you get that? Who told you to get? Mom did. Oh, all right. All right, it's okay then. Radharani is the universal mother. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila. Therefore, Radha is Parama Devata, the supreme goddess, and she is worshipable for everyone. She is the protectress of all, and she is the mother of the entire universe, Bhagavatam says. And then this verse always touches me when it comes to this discussion that when Dhruva Maharaj felt spurned by his father, and it was a really uncomfortable situation, because there are stepmothers there, and his stepmother didn't appreciate Dhruva Maharaj and was envious of him and kept him away from his father. And he came running to his biological mother, and isn't that the natural thing when everything just falls apart? Where's my mom? I remember, another aside, but I remember once I was at LAX airport and I was having a really bad day, a really bad week, maybe really bad month. I was just feeling down. So I called my mother from payphone. We used to have payphones back then, kids. I was in the phone booth and I called my mom and I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she said, "Fine." She said, "How are you?" And I said, "Not very good." And she could just hear in my voice, And then, so like, "What's wrong?" And I started telling her a few things that were bugging me. And she goes, "Now you listen to me. You take your hand and you put it in that bag and you start chanting." And when my mother was leaving the world, we had some really intimate times together. The 4 days she had before she left. And I was asking, I was alone once, and I was saying, "You remember that time I called you from LAX?" I said I was depressed. And you said, "Put your hand in." I said, "Why'd you say that? You didn't know much about Krishna consciousness or anything like that." And she said, "I saw you left the world behind, and I didn't want you coming back over the line at any time. And so I told you that." But this is kind of like the spontaneous, mood of a mother to intuit, what's the right thing and say it. And when Dhruva Maharaj went running to his mother, in hot tears coming from his eyes, complete anxiety for having been spurned by his own father, here's the verse from 4:8-22. She said to Dhruva, "You came to me crying, having been insulted by your stepmother, but I am unable to do any good for you. But Krishna is so kind to his devotees that if you go to him, then the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings." I'll read again. This is 4:8-22, Srimad Bhagavatam. She said, "You came to me crying, having been insulted by your stepmother. But I am unable to do any good for you. But Krishna is so kind to his devotees that if you go to him, then the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings." It's nice to know, isn't it? That's, again, 4:8-22. And let's see if there's a purport. A little bit more. A little down. There it is. The system of bhakti yoga described by... Is it the wrong verse? You sure? 4:8-22 I have here. Go up a little, let's see what the verse is. My dear boy, you also should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God is very kind to his devotees. Well, let's look at 21. Maybe it got... oftentimes in the Veda base, you just scroll up. Yeah, there you go. Let's go to the next 123. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Just get the book. When all fails, get the book. So this is a meditation on Krishna. That's imagine the love of a mother, but now it is being said by Suniti that imagine 10 million mothers, that kind of affection Krishna has. Just by meditating and thinking about how kind Krishna is, one can develop gratitude.
4:8-22, Prabhu.
4:8-22. Okay, let's see the purport to 4:8-22. And a voice just came from the sky to confirm that. We thank that unembodied voice. 4:8-22. We'll try it again and look at the purport. Yeah. Okay, the system of bhakti yoga described by Queen Suniti to her son is the standard way of God realization. Everyone can continue in his constitutional occupational duties and at the same time keep the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. This was also instructed by the Lord himself to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Go on fighting, but keep me within your mind. That should be the motto of every honest person seeking perfection in Krishna consciousness. In this connection, Queen Suniti advised her son that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhritya Vatsala, which means, what's he known as? Which means that he is very kind to his devotees. She said, you came to me crying, having been insulted by your stepmother, but I am unable to do any good for you. I see, it's in the purport. But Krishna is so kind to his devotees that if you go to him, then the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. When everyone else fails to mitigate one's misery, Krishna is able to help the devotee. Queen Suniti also stressed that the process of approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not easy, but is sought after by great sages who are very advanced in spiritual realization. Queen Suniti also indicated by her instruction that Dhruva Maharaj was only a small child, 5 years old, and it was not possible for him to purify himself by the way of karmakanda. But by the process of bhakti yoga, even a child less than 5 years old or anyone of any age can be purified. That is the special significance of bhakti yoga. Therefore, she advised him not to accept worship of the demigods or any other process, but simply to take the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the result would be all perfection. As soon as one places the Supreme Personality of Godhead within one's heart, everything becomes easy and successful. That was worthwhile, finding that. Then, from the Bhagavatam 10th canto, I've written the verse 10:61-19. My dear king, the sons and grandsons of Lord Krishna's children numbered in the tens of millions, 16,000 mothers gave rise to this dynasty. Imagine all the mothering going on. 10:61-19. You can have a look at that. So also, another one of the mothers is the Vedas. And we say that one must take the authority of the mother to know the father. What other authority could you take? And so similarly, the Vedas speak to us as mother to tell us who our father is. And isn't that the most fortunate moment when somebody who's lost in the world gets that direction from the mother, and the mother speaks like Vedas? So many devotees have told me, and I've had my own experience, that when I received one of Prabhupada's books and read it, I felt as if I was being personally taken care of, being nurtured, mothered, showed the right direction. There's nothing as satisfying as being found after being lost and being directed after being misdirected. And this is the motherly quality of the Vedas. I just wanted to take a look at this because it's just sort of a profound verse to remember how there were 16,000 mothers. I mean, there were 16,000 palaces, and each one of them, Krishna had 10 children, so there were tens of thousands. That this is a profound meditation in and of itself, one that Narada Muni particularly dwelled on. A mother is particularly in tune with the needs of the dependent, of her dependent. And this is what our means of outreach must be also, particularly in tune to the needs of our dependents. There are many different ideas, seminars, books, lectures, everything you can listen to about how to do Krishna conscious outreach. But when it comes down to it, there's one thing that always works. If you're attentive to the needs of your dependents, that's all that's really required. If you really go out of your way to think, what does this person need? Think in terms of their needs. And that's what mothers do. And that's really what ISKCON is. It's a mothering entity. We're meant to look out for the needs of others. What are their spiritual needs? What are their emotional needs? What are their physical needs? And to find a way to take care of those. If we're attentive to that, people will respond naturally. And not much else needs to be done, that forms the basis, that informs all of our decisions of how to develop, where to invest, how to extend ourselves to people in a very caring, motherly way. Also, a mother is sensitive to the urgency of survival. Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows a pyramid, and at the bottom there's survival. It's the way people have to eat. That's one thing. And they also have to feel safe, like they're not going to be attacked, their position isn't going to be usurped, and so forth. And this is a motherly tendency to know about survival. After all, mothers are really connected to the earth. Fathers, according to sociologists, are very much the explorers, willing to go off and take sannyas and just wander the world, where the mothers stay home and they're connected to the earth and this instinct of survival. And that also must be there to have a balanced child, or to have balanced members of a community. That there has to be this nurturing, mothering quality also, that there's an attentiveness to their survival, their very survival, their needs. And in the past, our in ISKCON society may have been out of balance, may still be out of balance, may be getting into balance when it comes to this idea of renunciation being everything. That if someone sees a renunciate, then they'll say, this is advancement. But actually, nourishment, nurturing, and care for people's very primal instincts so that they can practice Krishna consciousness is vitally important. And that has to be attended to with the same mentality that a mother does for its child. Another mood of a mother, another attitude, is helping those who are most vulnerable. When there's, even in the animal species, you see that the runt of the litter is often taken care of more carefully by the parents. And we also have to see how people are vulnerable in different ways and make sure that they're taken care of. So a good question to ask on Mother's Day weekend is, where would we be without mothers? The consciousness of the child is shaped even while in the womb. The Acharyas specifically mentioned that in this verse from 5.2.21, the words Matu Anugrahat, by the mercy of their mother, refers to the breast milk of their mother. In India, it is a common belief, Prabhupada writes in his purport, that if a baby has fed his mother's milk for at least 6 months, his body will be very strong. So finally, we have the analogy that Prabhupada gives for chanting, that when we chant, we should have the genuine cry of a child for his or her mother. And if the mother wasn't there, what would the meaning of the crying be? And when we chant and we are sincerely crying out, and we realize that with our sincere inquiry and our deep need actually to take shelter, there's immediate response. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham ivanukam partam aham agyana jamdamaha nashim yatma bhavasto gyana dipena bhashvata. That I'm there for you in the heart to illuminate your heart and give you direction, light of knowledge, whenever you sincerely approach me. And throughout the Bhagavad Gita and also the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can study and come to the conclusion that Krishna is responsive. And Prabhupada says this, he's responsive. And we see oftentimes this responsiveness of mothers to the children crying. And there are different cries of the child, different moods. some cries. Sundarananda, what are some of the different kinds of cries? Do you recognize them? Let's see if your ear is tuned to these. Could you name a few different moods of cries from your baby?
Well, there is a desperate one when she's, especially when Vraja is hungry.
When Vraja is hungry, what kind of cry does she make?
You can see desperate.
Let's hear a little.
It will be like.
Okay, so that's hungry, and is there a different one? There's other moods.
And then it's continuous. She doesn't stop. But then there are others when she just wants to be carried, and then you can talk to her, you can sing to her, and then she will be like, she will calm down after some time. So those are the two things. Maybe Vishaka has more.
I've heard that there's, her ear is like a consummate musician to hear these, can hear the different notes, and the mother's ears are tuned. I have heard and understood by observation that there's a kind of desperate cry that the child has that's different from the hungry cry, it's different from the I'm bored cry, or I just want attention, but something is really wrong. And then the mother can hear it, like when you blow on those little whistles, humans can't hear it, but dogs immediately, they hear it and they come running because they hear a different frequency. So mothers hear that frequency of the child's crying and come. And so it's a reciprocal. When we cry out, Prabhupada mentions Mother Hara. We say Hare in the vocative form. When we're sincerely crying out, then there's responsiveness that comes from Mother Hara. And Krishna's immediately attentive to our needs. Maybe not seem immediate to us, but in the long run we see that actually he's not missed anything. Whatever's happened has been to bring me closer and to bring me to the right point of maturity. Yes, Damodar.
Actually, in our whole one ashram system, Krishna has set up in a very nice way that even in brahmachari state, when kids are going for Gurukul, then the guru was strict, but then there was always someone to take care. And when we progress to Grahastha ashram, then the lady who is the mother of the house is serving the other three ashrams as well as the Grahastha. So anybody, kids or any Vanapras or any sannyasis which are coming, so they were very integral part of the motherly love was very integral part of the Varnashram system. Even when she is old, when the spouse is going for renunciation, then she is under care of the son. So the reciprocation of mother is always there in the whole Varnashram system. And we look at every girl we should look at as mothers is one of the advice which is given by the Acharya. So they play a very vital role in while the Guru Parampara and all, we see most of them are all almost like except few exceptions as males, but the mothers are playing more like a supporting fabric of the overall Varnashram system and society. So they play a very important part, but in a supporting from the back to support the entire skeleton.
Yeah, and every one of the acharyas has a mother too. And also, I've read some studies about how children who have mother, father, strong and healthy, balanced relationships in their lives also tend to be well adapted and so forth. This is a very important nurturing part of one's psyche growing up in life. And if that's out of balance, then there's some kind of supplement needed for that. Yes?
Yeah, this week.
This week I met an old friend who is one of the top pediatricians who deals with autistic children. He says autism is huge in the Bay Area. It's on the rise like crazy. And he's doing research into that, and his form of therapy is mostly directed towards kids who are between the ages of 3 and 6-year-olds, right in the beginning when it's being detected. And he says one of the main reasons is that there is so much tech industry that people are becoming nerds, that they just deal with machines and not with people from early age on. And so, just to confirm that mothers, they come down on the level of the kids and they play with the kids and they allow them to be kids. Whereas sometimes the tendency is like, come on, get up, you know, like, you're not a little boy, you know, like, come on, perform. You can see this week I was in, where was it? I went to one store and there's a martial arts academy next door. And I was surprised how 90 to 95% of the kids who went there were all from Indian backgrounds, and parents were driving them there, little 6, 7, 8-year-olds who had to learn martial arts, how to be tough guys and kind of fight it out in the world. And I was like, why can't they just play, you know? Why do they have to go and beat each other over the head, you know, at that age? So, yeah, the need for play, that I was reading Prabhupada, how he was saying that, no, we're rich men's sons, we don't work. Rich men's sons, they play because they know we're covered, you know, Dad's got us covered. So we're not going to work because it's not required. How much work do you need to earn your future padis? So just a few reflections on things that happened in the last week related to that motherly tendency of playing and allowing the children to be children and to grow up at their time. Like one time some important people came to a village and they were interviewing the elders in the village, and they were saying, so did any great people come from here? Do you have any scientists? Do you have any scholars, any, you know, business people, any famous people? And the elders looked around and they said, no famous people were born here. Only babies are born here in this village. I mean, later on they may turn into something different, but usually they all start off as babies. So it's kind of pragmatic, but that what you mentioned, this survival instinct, what's needed right now to survive, is sometimes that being grounded to Mother Earth, being in tune with that earthly frequency, which is sometimes lacking, and then things kind of spin out of loop, and then all sorts of vata diseases start to appear in individuals. Like autism, it's a vata disease because it's a disbalance of the airs. And it can also happen in institutions, that things get too much vata, too much heady, and they kind of lose their bearings.
So never underestimate the value of giving this nurturing energy to others. We've said before about how encourage everyone, try to understand that everyone's got a hard time in the world. From every direction there are discouragements, there are fearful situations, everyone's under pressure. So it's important to take time to look out and see how to nurture people. They're feeling for survival, they're feeling for being worth something. All these are qualities that the mother gives in a great abundance. And as some have mentioned, it's not exclusive to particular gender. It's a mood of actually helping others. Another thing about mothers in general is that they're unsung heroes. They tend to do service that's barely noticed, especially in male-dominated culture. There's a way in which, you know, the mothers are sort of in the background. They do like all the really hard stuff in taking care of the children and things like that, and then sometimes they're not noticed even. And but Krishna notices this kind of unseen service that's going on. There's an example in the pastime at Srivasangam where there was a maidservant in the house of Srivas who was bringing, with great care and attention, pots of Ganges water so that the devotees could go on with their yajna. And she was in the background, not being noticed, not trying to be noticed, but Mahaprabhu noticed her and said, "Who's doing this service?" Srivas said, "Oh, that's one of our maidservants, her name is Duki." And he said, "Her new name is Suki." That kind of attention that he gave to those who are performing service which is unseen, unheard by others. It's not the glorious front line kinds of service. And Prabhupada was very much like that in his nurturing also. That he would actually pick out and notice those who were doing the unsung, heroic kinds of services. I've given the example, and we sort of passed over his appearance day, but Jayananda Prabhu, who I had the fortune of being under the care of in San Francisco when I first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, and who, by the way, was the best friend of Keshav Bharati Maharaj, which tells you something about the character of Keshav Bharati Maharaj. He has, they was best friends with Jayananda, like, bosom buddies and things like that. But I do remember I was there when there was, and it was very noticeable, how much everyone wanted to push towards the front to be noticed by Prabhupada. And I felt it myself, although I didn't care because I was such a small timer. I just joined, and I was just happy to be anywhere. Felt lucky to be. And I remember going up to Jayananda's house. It was Jayananda and Keshav Bharati Maharaj's house where they lived. They were Grihastas, and they lived there. But they moved out of their apartment. That apartment is still there, by the way. And Prabhupada would stay in there. They clean it from top to bottom. They paint the whole thing before he'd come anytime. And he came several times there and stayed, and we were going up there. And I do remember some very luminary sannyasis, GBCs, sort of like there was a pack and a lot of elbows flying to get close to Prabhupada. And when we came in the room, they would close around the front section, like in military, and then others, according to their rank and file, would get pushed to the back. But Jayananda never tried for it. He would always sit in the back, like Haridas Thakur. He would be there with the rest of the devotees, and then Mahaprabhu would inevitably say, "Where's Haridas Thakur?" And they said, "He's down the road there offering his obeisances." And they said, "Tell him to come here." He said, "He won't come. He's too low. He can't come." And Jayananda was like that too. He would stay in the back, or he wouldn't come at all because he'd keep working and say, "Oh, what's the use of me being there? I'll just stay here and build this thing." But Prabhupada would always take time and notice and say, "Oh, Jayananda." One time Jayananda was falling asleep because he was up like 2-3 nights in a row getting ready for Rath Yatra. Prabhupada was there. Everyone else was front and center listening to Prabhupada. And we were sitting in the room and Jayananda was nodding out. And some devotees were like, "Wake him up." Prabhupada said, "Leave him alone." Leave him alone. He noticed him like that. So there's this kind of mothering tendency to notice the unsung heroes, and mothers are unsung heroes. Those who do the behind-the-scenes work that needs to be done are following in the footsteps of mothers everywhere. Om Tat Sat. We have another comment from the internet.
This is Anand Murari Prabhu from Denver. He says, "Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I was really appreciating the meditation on Krishna being as caring as millions of mothers, and that if we meditate in this way to increase the gratitude. It's a natural reaction when we think of a mother's love being magnified millions of times."
Thank you, Ananda Murari Prabhu. It's a really nice point, too. And I had been talking the other day to somebody about this, how one retains a position in this world, and it means that you have to have strong relationships. Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavatam that when one, in fact, takes sannyas, it doesn't mean that he's renouncing relationships, it means he's getting a higher relationship. And we are dependent on nurturing, we're dependent on loving relationships, absolutely. And those who don't have them will fall down from their position. The Mayavadis, they neglect God altogether and his nurturing qualities and so forth, and therefore, Rudya Krishna Paramparam Tata. A lot of hard work, and then again, Patantyata Nadrita Yushmarangraya. They fall back down again because we need that. We need that nurturing. Therefore, we go on, and we should, with great earnestness, remember Mother Hara, Radharani, and when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we can be grateful for the nourishing qualities of Srimati Radharani, and remember what Ananda Murari Prabhu just brought out about how Krishna is like his love is like 10 million mothers plus. So, everyone call their mom, or send something nice. Remember your mother, or those who are mother-like figures in your life. Good idea to reach out. Why not take this weekend? It's a commercial weekend, but who cares? We'll take any excuse to do the right thing, and it's nice. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpadurvascha kripasanabhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Go Premanande Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.